And now, belatedly coming to you from Side 3, it's Core Live Arcade! Hey everybody, how's it going? I know it's been a while since we hosted one of these shows. It's that time of the year where Jaster gets busy, and, well, me and Devin have to pick up the slack. Speaking of, I got my boy Devin with me right here.
Hello! It is I.
Just a little bit of housekeeping. Part of the reason that Core Live Arcade has kind of been on the back burner is because Devin was getting fucked over IRL by work. Now that he's in a transitional state, wrapping up his current job and getting ready to go to a new one, he actually has the time to record again, which means that we can actually start working on Core Live Arcade, because generally, I mean, this isn't me and his show, but it's easier for us to do this than, say, me and Jaster. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and talk about a game that came out that we were both really excited for, and we absolutely ate the fuck up once it released. And we a game that both of us actually need to finish.
Yeah, we still need to finish it.
Yeah, we got one chapter of the game left. It's Gundam Breaker 4, the another very belated thing, because it's the first true sequel in the Breaker franchise since, like, I sturst farted. Hello?
You good?
Since I first started hanging out with Devin way back in high school, or just after. So, for those who don't know what Gundam Breaker is a hack and slash video game series in the Gundam franchise, where you assemble digital Gunpla, and then you get to pilot them around levels and beat tar out of other Gundams, steal their parts, and then make your Gunpla stronger. It is truly every Gundam fan's wet dream, because it lets you make all your stupid OC Gundams and make all sorts of dumb lore about them. Or, you know, if you're bored, just make shitpost Gundams.
As I do a lot of.
Yes, he does.
I do a lot of them.
Yes, he's quite the connoisseur of shitposts. So, just a little bit of a rewind. Gundam Breaker has been around since the PS3 era. The first two games were Japan exclusive. Gundam Breaker 3 saw a C region release and was a very popular import. I myself can attest, I imported it. And 3 was so popular, it got a special edition called the Break Edition, which had all the DLC compiled into it. The franchise then pivoted in a different direction with New Gundam Breaker in an attempt to cash in on the then extremely new live service craze, and by completely altering the really enjoyable and fast-paced gameplay by making it so that you had to deposit parts you picked up, that the parts you used actually didn't matter because the inner frame was the only thing that had worthwhile stats, and by giving it a cookie-cutter school dating sim story where pretty much every route was more or less the same. Naturally, nobody liked this.
He's not even kidding. I played through the entirety of this game, right? Because it was the first Gundam Breaker game that I owned. Mm. And when I tell you I was bored out of my damn mind, like, the only thing I had to do before I played New Breaker was Kaz brought his PlayStation over to my place, and we played Breaker 3 for like a few hours, and, you know, messed around and like made some customs and stuff. So like that's all I knew. And that's what I was expecting. And then I got New Breaker, and I had to go down the same exact story, the same exact dialogue, but with a pick your waifu, walk down the road story mode with, like, you know, literally the same combat in every mission. And then, like he said, you had to deposit all the parts into a box. You could only hold like 3 parts at a time.
Yeah.
It sucked. And if anyone smacked you while you're on the way out, you dropped that part. And it's just annoying. It was awful. No one liked it. And, you know, when they announced that they were making a Breaker 4, I know we all were like, cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, they ported New Breaker to PC, but that didn't really do much for it because the game sucked. Um, and so in between the announcement of Breaker 4 and then there was the mobile game, which from people I've spoken to who played it was pretty fun, but I can't imagine playing a hack and slash 3D game on a phone would run all that well. That had to heat your phone up like a motherfucker, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I know I didn't play it because I am the most anti-mobile gamer you will ever fucking meet.
Yeah, I am. I usually pick up a mobile game out of curiosity and then forget I have it after about a week. And at the time that the mobile game dropped, my phone was in such a shit state that wouldn't even be capable of really running it effectively without exploding in my hand.
Right.
So, but the phone game did well enough because it was a mobile game and it had Gundam attached to it, which meant that people in Japan were dropping all sorts of money on it.
Right.
It was successful enough that it spawned an O&A, which was actually pretty fun for a short little 3-episode jaunt. We got a pretty solid line of model kits out of it too.
Yeah, we did.
The battle log kits.
Yeah, they were actually really, really damn good kits.
Really, really cool kits. Yeah. But the franchise was still in limbo. We hadn't had a proper mainline entry in some time. The mobile game shut down service after, I think it was 3 or 4 years. A pretty decent lifespan for a game of its type, honestly. And we were all had kind of assumed the franchise was dead, like pretty much every other good Gundam video game franchise that existed beforehand, like the Dynasty Warriors games, or the endless string of console games that existed in the 2000s and stuff like that.
Right.
So we were just like, all right, well, I guess we'll just wait for whenever the next G generation game drops and get our Gundam game fixed that way. And then all of a sudden, they were like, hey guys, Gundam Breaker 4. And we were like, yeah? Nani?
We were like, yeah, what about it? And they're like,
what about it? And so we're all kind of like crowding around, like, what is this? It's Gundam Breaker 4. What's it gonna be like? Is it gonna be more New Breaker? Like, what's the deal? Our question was quickly answered because the advertising campaign for Gundam Breaker 4 throughout the run up to its release was, this isn't New Breaker.
Yeah, they were explicitly saying, like, do not go in expecting New Breaker. We learned our lesson.
It's like this is a real sequel, not that New Breaker bullshit, and every time they showed a new trailer, it would be like, it was something new. Like, this is the most advanced the building system has been yet. You can actually play as SD units this time, because in 3 they were just allies that you had. Let's see, what else? Obviously, they were dropping a shitload of new parts into this, because there's a lot of stuff that had come out in between Breaker 3 and this one.
Yeah.
They put the aerial Gundam from G-Witch on the cover, because aerial Gundam sells.
It's true, yeah.
And more importantly, they announced it was going to have an international release, which we all fucking lost our mind over. And then, to follow that up with, they said, yes, PC release on launch. And we were like, thank fuck. So, the time came and went, and finally, at the end of August, the game was finally released, and we proceeded to enjoy the hell out of it. Literally day one it was out, me and Devin did a co-op stream together of us playing it for like 4 or 5 hours.
We were like absolutely blown away by it, because like out the gate it was already just a big improvement. Of course, naturally, all you have to do is just breathe and you'll be better than New Breaker, but it was also, I think like, going off the gate, Miles already better than 3 was.
Yeah,
with
no,
all
the
the DLC and like
yeah, like not only it is interesting because like I mean, Gundam Breaker is not really known for a sophisticated gameplay. It's a button masher hack and slash,
right.
but like they still elaborated on the controls and the gameplay to give it a bit more nuance. For instance, they made it so you could end your aerial combo at any time by double tapping, your thruster button.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because one of the problems in 3 is that if you started an aerial combo, you were pretty much never going to come down from the ground, from the air ever.
You had to just stop moving.
Yeah, pretty much. So being able to interrupt mid combo introduced a lot of tech to a game that was honestly pretty shallow from a combat tech standpoint, which was really cool. It also means that we can hop up and down while we're waiting for the next wave to spawn in.
Yeah.
Which is what we usually use it for.
It's like, we do that, or we'll do the spin around.
Yeah, we'll just spin around in a circle, yeah. They introduced a lot more boss battles into this one as well, because in Gundam Breaker 3, there was only a small handful of, like, giant boss battles in the game. But in this one, there's, like, I think there's, like, 10 or so.
There's a lot.
Because there's the perfect grade Rexy Unicorn and God Gundam. There's Big Zam. Oh hey, Big Zam.
Oh hey, Big Zam.
Oh hey, Big Zam. There is the Absolus 3. There's the big chicken mobile armor from IBO. I don't remember the name of it on the top of my head.
It's that like red and white one, I think.
Yeah, it's the chicken. Yeah. And even bigger Rexy.
Yeah, they got the mega size in there.
Yeah, they got the mega size.
Which,
yeah.
dude, when we got to that mission, like, we were like, oh, a second, perfect grade. Because you start out the boss battle fighting a perfect grade, OG
and then
Gundam.
you beat it, and then a bigger one spawns in, and you're like, oh.
We were just like, oh, it's just a second one. And then it took us a second. We're like, this one's bigger.
My favorite one is the new Gundam FF. Because one of the stages puts you in front of the Fukuoka Gundam base, which is the one where the new Gundam statue is. That has the long
yeah!
And so we were like, what's the boss fight for this stage? And then the camera cuts to the statue of the new Gundam, and it steps off the pedestal. And
yeah!
Like, oh,
it was so cool!
There's even an SD Gundam boss. It's one of the, like... Musha SD Gundam ones, and it's like some big guy that turns into a giant T-Rex, and it's pretty cool, and we like it, and we love him. He's big and he stomps around, and he's just really angy, and he's really cute.
It looks like it's so funny because when you're like beating the crap out of it, he just looks like he's throwing a tantrum.
Yeah, and of course the Neo Zeong makes a return, though not as a final boss like it was in Gundam Breaker 3. And the Neo Zeong 2 as well from Narrative is in there. So that's a pretty healthy amount of giant bosses. And, of course, obviously there's tons of series representation. And they put some deep cuts in this time. Because I remember we both got excited when we saw the Rebalu. That's a unicorn MSV mobile suit. You don't really see that in a lot of stuff. So... Naturally, there is an absolute abundance of Cosmic Era mobile suits, which is fine, because Devin and I frequently circle jerk to Cosmic Era Gundam.
Yeah, it's always alright to...
I think you had just seen Seed Freedom when the game dropped, I want to say. Because
It was. I saw it very shortly after the game.
That's right. It was after.
I think I saw it like a week after it dropped.
Because it finally came to Netflix, and I had been waiting like 2 or 3 fucking months to talk about it with Devin, because he wasn't able to go see it in theaters because it was only in theaters for 2 nights, and work was kicking his ass. And
yeah, both nights were nights that I worked, and I was like, well, guess I'm not doing.
I was really upset because I really wanted to talk about it with him, but I didn't want to spoil it for him. So I had literally been just sitting on my hands for 3 months, and when it finally happened, we ended up gushing about it together for about 3 hours.
It's an amazing movie, by the way. Go fucking watch it.
Yeah. If you're a Gundam Seed fan and you haven't seen it yet, please watch it. It's absolute peak.
And if you're not seed pilled like us,
go watch Seed
do
and
better.
Destiny. Go watch Seed Destiny and then Freedom, and then get back to us. And if you hate Seed, well, I don't know what to tell you, man.
L take.
L, big L's. Hashtag Shinaska did nothing wrong.
Exactly, on guard. Did nothing wrong.
So, where do we start talking about Breaker 4 now that we've kind of covered up, the general run up into it, the backstory of the franchise, the ways it improved on things, because the story is a very boilerplate story. When you play Breaker, the story is like whatever.
We could probably talk about there's a different combat style for everyone.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. They made sure the gameplay was a bit more diverse around this time around. So
each type of weapon that you use it's not just, I'm just putting this weapon because it looks cool. It's now like, I'm putting this weapon because that's what, what I needed to use it. Or like, I like this style. For instance, one of my favorite combat styles is with the axe weapons. Mm-hmm. It's really heavy hitting, and when you have a dual wielding one, it combos really nicely and just has these clean destructive bursts to them. Or you can use, like dual bladed beam sabers. Those are freaking amazing because you can literally just spin to win on them.
Yeah, that's what I'm using on my final build at the moment.
They're so fun.
Every melee weapon has its own dedicated combo tree now instead of just the kind of all samey combo trees that were in 3. There was a little bit of difference. Mainly there was a one-handed combo tree and a two-handed combo tree, and I want to say that was about it. But now it's like there is a beam saber combo tree, there is a two-handed, sword combo tree, there's an axe combo tree, there's a lance combo tree, there's a whip combo tree, there's a fisticuffs combo tree, there's a dual wielding combo tree, there's a double-sided weapon combo tree. If there's been a Gundam, weapon and it's unique enough to have its own fighting style, it probably has its own dedicated combo tree, and that's what's really cool about it. It means that the gameplay won't get old as fast, because that was one of the big problems that Breaker 3 suffered from, is that it became very monotonous after a while because the gameplay was so samey. And that's always a big problem whenever you're playing an action game, especially one as open-ended as the Breaker games. Getting bored in an action game is the worst possible thing that could happen.
Right.
So the fact that they decided, so I'm very grateful that they varied things up. And of course, it's not just melee weapons where the gameplay varies, it's also in the ranged weapons where gameplay varies. Most ranged weapons in the game have 2 modes of fire at this point. So, for most weapons, so if you tap the weapon, you're going to do just a single shot, and if you hold, you can either do a sustained shot or a rapid fire shot. So, for instance, let's say you're using the Wing Gundam's, Buster rifles. Obviously, if you just tap it, you're just going to get a beam shot. But what's the Buster rifle really famous for? The big giant fuck you lasers it fires out. Well, exactly. If you want to do that, all you have to do is hold your trigger button, and you can absolutely do that. And you can just hold it until you run out of juice on your gun, and then you let it cool down, and you go again.
Yeah, like they did a lot of diversity, and on top of that, even within like ones that have the same like the same weapon type, there are also some that are like actual unique weapons within that weapon type. For instance, the best example is with the unarmed melee weapons. There's like 3 different actual combos within those melee weapons. There's like open hand, clench a fist and beat the shit out of your enemy. If your mobile suit has claws, it takes advantage of the claws. Like
Char's the Gawk, for instance.
Yeah, it uses the claws as a more of like a piercing style, or like a slashing style, rather than just punching them in the face. Then there's also the martial arts from G Gundam.
Yeah,
those are the best ones, by the way. By like a
yeah,
landslide. They're so good.
If you are playing unarmed, we highly recommend martial arts. Truth be told, and so already just in that alone, there's already a lot of diversity. Now, of course, that doesn't stop there, because obviously there's the different parts of your mobile suits as well. And depending on what parts of your mobile suit you pick, you get built-in weapons that come with them. For instance, I'm using, I think it's the Age 2 bullet legs, or is it the Age 3 bullet? Yeah, it's the Age 2 bullet. Had to mute my mic a little bit. What about Age 3? Yeah, no, it was the H2.
It was H2, okay.
Yeah, it was the H2, yeah. And that has some little missiles built into it, and you can use those missiles. Obviously, if you've got a Gundam head, chances are you probably have Vulcans built into it, and you can use those.
Yeah.
But the real parts that you should care about are the builders parts, which are back to as they should be in this game, rather than just being there for decoration like they got relegated to a New Breaker. Fuck you, New Breaker. So Gundam Breaker 3, when it came out, introduced a system called builders parts, which are these extra parts that you can put onto your Gundam to give it a little bit of spice and a little bit of extra attack capabilities. You can put, like, say, Adzam leaders on them, or you can put extra swords or guns, missile launchers, whatever. Or maybe you just want to make it look a little prettier, so you add extra V-Fin. Or you want to go Super Robot and you add the Trion 3 Lion chest. Or, you put the Sentinel Gundam Knee Breaker on there. Whatever, it's your mobile suit. You put what you want on there. New Breaker took away the attack capabilities of these weapons and just made them cosmetic. Gundam Breaker 4 said that's fucking stupid and brought them back as they were originally intended and added a way more of them.
Yeah, they added a ton. Even some that they made exclusively for this game.
And on top of that, the customization with the builders parts is even more insane than ever. Not only can you do the typical moving them around on them and painting them up and whatever, but the one thing that's really new to the build mechanics of this game is resizing parts. Let's say you have 2 parts that you really like, but they're not necessarily scaled because they're from 2 different series. That's an easy fix. Size one of them down, or size everything else up. Easy peasy.
You can do that for all parts as well.
Every part on the mobile suit, which has allowed for way more creativity. One of our favorite things to do in the game now is we like to go look at the leaderboards for highest voted builds and see what kind of creative stuff people are making. There are some genuinely crazy people out there who have figured out how to contort and twist this game to their own devices and make things that the game developers clearly didn't intend. But what's great about it is that those builds are totally welcome because, as the saying goes in Gundam Build Fighters, gunplay is freedom.
Exactly.
So for our playthrough of the story, Devin and I went for a co-op playthrough. Basically, we would clear a story chapter together, and then on our own time, we would go for the side content if we were worn out, or we would take out the side content together. And for our respective builds, we were also making up our own lore for them as we were going along. So
that's where the fun is.
that's a lot of the fun, is getting to be a Chunibyo about it. So for me, in my head, the mobile suits I were building were very much in the style of a Gundam protagonist mobile suits. Um, so since we both pre-ordered the deluxe version of the game, we got some special starter DLC that basically gave you parts of pretty much every single Hero Gundam from out the franchise. If it had been animated and it was a main character mobile suit, then we got it. So
Yeah.
so I slapped something together and painted it green, and I called it the Forest Gundam. And I decided from that point on that was going to be the motif across all of my builds for my main builds, and that they were going to have green as their main color, and their titles were going to reference forests of some kind. So I would have the Forest Glade, or the Deep Forest, or, in the case of the final Gundam, the Evergreen Gundam, which, as I always call it, is a Gundam for all seasons.
I went with the rival route, of course. I went with the Charclone.
Yeah,
I'm Charclone build, so of course I would.
Yeah, Devin loves his Charclones, so he was like, I gotta follow in this great tradition. So we had kind of it's a very I'm trying to think of a Gundam series where the rival is like an enemy at first and then joins the party, kind of deal. It's a very Deer Cotton Gundam Seed kind of situation.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Yeah, because the cool little thing we made was, my character was part of like a family that's kind of similar to like the zombie family. They're high up, but
yeah.
His father was just a scientist, or like just a researcher in this whatchamacall, in this world. Yeah. And he was the one that was kind of designing the mobile suits, but kind of in a way kind of against his will. But his son didn't know that. His son just thought, glory to our family and all that kind of stuff. So, naturally he has all these mobile suits that are customs for his family's name. They're made for him. He's the spoiled brat who gets the shiny toys and likes to show it off. Yeah. And it isn't until he starts getting punched in the face by a faster, stronger shiny toy that he starts getting a little salty about it. So he starts instructing people to make better ones.
And then after losing so many times, he's like, maybe I'm the problem.
He basically gets to like a situation where he's like punched in the face too many times, and like his mobile suit's basically destroyed, and they just take his cockpit out and take him as a prisoner.
It's the classic ego death.
And, I made it to where at that point he's now away from it, and his subordinate that he had has now taken over, and his subordinate just wants power. That's all he wants. Does not care how he gets it. So he starts taking mobile suits that were originally intent for my character, and he's making them bigger, badder, eviler.
Yeah, and so but see, that means we now have a badass Gundam duo fighting against them. And so it's always a lot of fun for me building mobile suits, because obviously we just shared this lore that we just kind of improv'd as we were building and kind of doing a bunch of yes and storytelling with each other. But for me, when I go to the customization screen for my mobile suits, a lot of the time my build process comes down to one thing: is I find a part that I really like that I want to start a build around, and I also usually have a concept going into it as well. One of my favorite ones that I built actually was the Deep Forest Gundam, because most of my Gundams up to that point have been really agile, zippy, kind of hit and run kind of mobile suits. And I was like, well, what if I had just a really tanky one that was just loaded to the teeth with weapons? And then I made the heaviest, chunkiest Gundam I could possibly imagine. And I think the total count of missiles that were on it at the end of the day was above 30. So it's not quite the Zesa from Double Zeta, but it's damn close.
Yeah, it's really close to it. It's chocked full of weapons. And it also fits with the one that I made for my character use while he's, basically being like, let me go fight, please. Like, let me out of this. Let me out of this room. Let me go fight something.
Yeah.
And it was one that I made. I just kind of made it on a whim, but then I really liked the way it turned out. And it started with like a bunch of Pale Rider parts.
Yeah.
One thing about me, I really love the Pale Rider.
The Pale Rider is very nice. It's one of our favorites.
Very gorgeous.
Yeah, no. Missing Link is one of our favorite side stories.
So good.
Yeah, it's very good.
I started taking, I started taking, some of those parts and then swapping them out. And I found out that a lot of age parts are really good with just in Universal Century style and also in Seed style.
Yeah,
they work really well with them.
It's mainly because the advanced generation design language was all about being able to constantly iterate on one mobile suit, because the gimmick, it was originally going to be its own video game series, and before they decided to make it an anime. And a lot of the different designs for the Gundams in that timeline are mainly from like arcade games and model kits and stuff, where they said, well, here's the H2, but it's meant for this. And as a result, because of that kind of universal exchange system that they have kind of going on in those designs, it makes them really easy to basically slap onto anything else, because it's not too fantastical that you can immediately say, oh, well, this is something from this timeline slapped on this something. It's that because of their utility and that the design language can work very much in harmony with stuff from other timelines. And I know for a fact both Devin and I have used a lot of parts from Gundam Age on our builds, which primarily consist of Universal Century and Cosmic Era mobile suit parts, because those are our favorite timelines.
Yeah.
For instance, my current build has the backpack of the Infinite Justice Gundam from Gundam Seed Destiny, because I always really loved how that backpack could come off and it could surf on it. But then I said, but wait, that's not good enough, and then I slapped on the rail cannons from the IWSP Striker pack from Seed HD. And so now I have this backpack that can come off, and I can ride on it, but also has these mounted fucking guns on it. So,
right.
And that's really part of the fun. Is the only thing limiting you in this game is your imagination and your desire to keep going. Because if you've got plenty of both, then you're just gonna have fun with this forever. I have friends who have long since beaten the game and just spend a lot of their time messing around with customs and finding new things to make. And I don't believe they started any, but I'm pretty sure actually I think they may have just started a event where basically they will challenge you to build a mobile suit around a certain theme and then post it. Because I'm seeing right now on Steam that they seem to have started one about 2 days ago. And that's a very fun way to artificially expand the lifespan of this game before we even get into any of the DLC that they have planned for it. Because we're only about a month and a half post-launch. The game hasn't been out for that long.
Yeah, it's still really early in its lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
It's really early in its lifetime, and at this point, they've already added some extra content to it.
Yeah, no, they just did a free update where they added the mighty Strike Freedom from Seed Freedom, as well as the Calibarn from G-Witch, because they had to fix a bunch of really bad bugs that had popped up, and they added those as an apology, and that was just a free update.
Yeah, they were just like, hey, here it is. Yeah, and like you said, there's also DLC plan and everything, and thankfully we bought the editions that we're gonna get those as soon as they drop.
Yeah, huh? Oh, you know it. Because more parts means more builds, and more builds equals more fun.
Exactly. Yeah, and not to mention the story we talked about the story earlier. It is kind of, I mean, it's not like the most amazing story you've ever had, but it's a pretty good one.
It might not be anything groundbreaking, but it is fun. The basic premise of the game is that Gunpla Battle in this world has evolved from being something that's done in arcades to being something that's done at home, because there is now it's now become a giant MMO, and even though it's only in its beta, it's already incredibly popular. And so we're some Joe Schmo who starts playing the game and makes some friends and forms a team and goes on some adventures, gets into a tournament, and then we start fighting against hackers. And I really like the cast of the game. I love all the character designs. There's actually one character in the game. I had at least 3 or 4 different people say, Kaz, this guy is just you. Devin knows the one I'm talking about.
I know exactly the one you're talking about, yeah.
And I was a little bit behind in the game, and so I finally, me and Devin got caught up, and I was like, damn, that really is just me. He's handsome and thinks he's the hottest shit ever, and everybody's really tired of him. That's perfect. It is me.
It's me. I'm looking in the mirror.
Yeah. And so, and you know, there are some returning characters from Gundam Breaker 3. For instance, Mr. Gunpla and his amazing afro are back from Gundam Breaker 3. There's another character who also returns from 3, but that one's a little bit of a spoiler. And I don't want to...
yeah, we're keeping this spoiler free.
I'm trying to avoid spoiling it because this game it's not even 2 months old. It's not even been on the market for 2 months. And while I'm pretty sure everybody who wanted to complete the story has done it by now, I'm going to exercise caution here. You know, this isn't as going to be as much of a sin as, say, spoiling Armored Core 6 or any of its routes, but, you know, for people who care about returning characters and want to be surprised, I'm doing that for you. Finger guns. So, I think for me, really, I'm just happy to have a good Gundam action game again. Because I do enjoy my Gundam shooters. I will admit, I was not big on Gundam Evolution. I thought it was too floaty, but I will pour one out for it.
Rest in peace to a real one.
Bandai, make Evolution too. Do it for the people. Come on, man.
Do it for me.
Do it for Devin.
Do it for me. I'm just a little guy, please.
Just a little birthday boy. You know? Look at
I'm
him.
just a little birthday boy.
You're not gonna hit him, are you? And I mean, I do enjoy the very weighted, more grounded feel of GBO2, even if its netcode is fucking terrible and its balance is practically non-existent. I still deeply enjoy that game because of the, you know, more simulation style gameplay. But having something that I can just pick up and play and just have some fun with and not really think too hard about it is something I've been wanting out of Gundam for quite some time. And because the Dynasty Warrior Gundam games haven't had a new game in over a decade, I'm very grateful for this.
Yeah, it was, to say it was worth the wait is an understatement, honestly. It blew our expectations out of the water, and I'm very thankful for that.
Isn't that something? 2 years in a row, we've gotten a long-awaited sequel to a mecha franchise that hasn't had a game in over 10 years, and they were both worth the wait. How often do you get to say that happens in video games, let alone inside a genre?
Yeah, not often.
Like,
very little nowadays.
Genuinely insane. Like Armored Core 6 and Gundam Breaker coming back from the grave with amazing sequels that breathe new life into the franchise, and both of them are only just getting started, is wild to me.
Yeah.
It's funny, but, like, it's kind of an extension of this ongoing mecha renaissance we've been in for a while now.
Yeah, because we've been in a little bit of a mecha renaissance with with anime, and now we get to have it in our video games.
Because if I had to put a number of years it's been going on for, it started around 2017 or so, was Mazinger Infinity, and it felt like the mecha genre kind of woke up from the slumber it was in. Because we got the Getter Robo arc anime, which is pretty much as definitive of an ending as we are going to get to the original story of Getter Robo as it gets.
Right.
With that slightly expanded ending that, while still open, is pretty easy to infer context from. You know, Gundam roared into, Gundam, kicked the door down and found its way back into the mainstream with G-Witch. You know, there's been the Gridman animes, which have, done a lot to revive the idea of the super robot. Bravern happened, which paid a lot of, paid a lot of tribute to, the Brave series. What else? Code Geass has a new anime right now. All these, then, like, that's just the stuff off the top of my head. There's tons of other, Machine Eugene Wataru got a new anime. It kind of feels like Japan was listening to people like Giguk in Mother's Basement making video essays about how the mecha genre is dead, and then rolled up their sleeves and said, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that."
Yeah, and also to the people that always say mecha is dead, like, you guys are blind and stupid.
Yeah, no, I think it's strange. Here's the thing, right? So mecha anime as it is presently, has pretty much defined that it is here to stay and is never going anywhere, ever. Because mecha is one of the genres of anime that is very essential to anime as a medium, because a lot of the conventions in terms of storytelling and characters were born in the mecha genre. Like the idea of, changing your opening halfway through the series, that started in mecha anime, thanks Zeta Gundam. The idea of giving your main character a power-up at the same time, also thanks to Zeta Gundam. The idea of rude, hot-blooded characters, that came from Mazinger Z. Calling out your attacks, also Mazinger Z. One of the earliest examples of the tsundere was in Mazinger Z. Characters dying heroic sacrificial deaths, Getter Robo. And yeah, I know these tropes have existed in storytelling long before, some of the tropes have existed in storytelling long before that, but if we're talking about the way that anime approaches these tropes specifically, a lot of them are found in mecha anime first.
Yeah.
Which makes the, at least English-speaking anime fandoms, kind of casual dismissal and disrespect for the genre all the more baffling. For whatever reason, in Western anime fandom, there is this kind of hatred and dismissal of mecha. A lot of people are just automatically turned off to mecha anime for some reason. It's something that keeps me up at night, because I don't know why there's this kind of specific attitude towards mecha anime. It's very strange. It's not really something that can be explained well unless you've walked in these spaces and have tried to have this conversation before with people who aren't into it. But for whatever reason, to the outsider, mecha anime is a monolith, and for whatever reason, it gets the medium kind of gets boiled down to a stereotype that doesn't exist and then dismissed outright. Which is very strange, because this is oftentimes coming from people who consume other very stereotypical, like, anime subgenres, like the battle shonen, which makes it all the weirder, quite truthfully, because, yes, me and Devin love mecha anime because of the cool robots, but, mecha anime, as always, the cool robots have just been another vehicle for the storytelling. And quite truthfully, some of me and Devin's favorite mecha anime ever Many of the reasons why we love those mecha anime are for many reasons beyond the robots. Like, case in point, going to Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny, those two anime have some of the best character drama that the entire genre has to offer.
It's like genuinely amazing. It's like you're watching a drama show and there happens to be, there just happens to be robots.
Which is why we like Kamen Rider 5 so much, because you're watching a J drama and also there's monsters there.
Yeah, it's what makes the genre good. A cool robot helps.
We love seeing a cool robot punch a monster or an evil robot or whatever in the face at the end of the day. I mean, hello, that's why we love Gal Gaigar. That's why Guy Shishio continues to motivate us to be better people and to always strive for excellence. But
like genuinely my inspiration going into my interview for my latest play was I just kept telling myself victory goes to those with courage.
That's right, baby. That's right. I got the job. I have a friend who fights off his depression by saying Guy Shishio wouldn't want this for me. And it works. That's the crazy part.
It works because it's true.
It works because it's true. And so and like, but for whatever reason, there's just this like, like for instance, one that was pretty common here. I don't know if this exact flavor of sentiment still exists. It's like, it has giant robots in it. Well, that must mean it's like Power Rangers, and Power Rangers is cheesy and bad, so therefore giant robots are dumb. Which is a very strange series of mental gymnastics to go through. Quite frankly. I remember once
really weird.
I remember once when I was in high school, I punched like a middle school kid on the bus over that because.
Oh my god.
I know I told this story to you. I don't think I've told this on the podcast. So, for those who aren't familiar with the American public school system, the American public school system has public transit. There are school buses, and at least in regards to when the afternoons. That's basically the public school equivalent of international waters. If something happens on the bus in the afternoon, nothing much is going to be done about it. Unless you, like, tried to murder someone, basically. Like, the threshold for, like, actual consequences is really high. So, at the time in high school, I would always carry around a DVD copy of Pacific Rim with me, because I thought that movie... because that movie was and still is the fucking tits. Guillermo del Toro made a goddamn masterpiece that perfectly understood what makes mecha so appealing and why we love them so much and the characters in the genre, while also making a massive tribute to the Daikaiju Eiga and all the love we have for that. Because quite frankly, if there's any man who can make a film that is a giant love letter to any kind of medium, it's Guillermo del Toro. But that's a conversation for another day. So I saw that movie when I was in high school. It blew my mind. I got it on DVD that Christmas, and I carried it around with me everywhere. And anytime the conversation of favorite movies came up, I'd always bring it out and be like, this is my favorite movie. Anybody want to watch it? And I got like 15 or 20 different people to watch the movie that way. So I'm on the bus. The topic of movies comes up because the thing about teenagers is that they talk about the same like 4 or 5 things in like rotation, basically. And there's this shit ass middle schooler across from me, and he's like, well, Pacific Rim's got giant robots in it, and giant robots are Power Rangers, so therefore that movie's like Power Rangers, and therefore it's dumb. Now, I'm saying this as a fan of both Pacific Rim and Power Rangers. They're both awesome. Don't let anybody change their mind about that. But like, I wasn't gonna let some snot-nosed 13-year-old tell me, how I should, go about my taste in film. So I just decked him.
I just punched him in the face.
I just punched him in the fucking face. And he kind of fell back into a seat. And I swear to God, he basically had the same expression on his face as when Bright hit Amuro. He was just astounded that my response was fucking hitting him, and he didn't know how to respond to that because we're talking about movies. It's a very extreme reaction. But he, and everybody around me was like, dude, did you just punch that kid? And I was like, yeah, I guess I did. But the thing is, it shut him up. Mission successful.
He was just like, damn, maybe I gotta go watch this movie.
I don't know if he ever watched the movie, but I know he never shit talked me to my face ever again. Listen, sometimes you have to establish dominance over the squeakers, you know what I mean? Remind them of the natural order.
You gotta remind them of the pecking order.
Yeah, put the fear of God in them. So there you go. That's the story about I punched a kid on the bus. And the thing is, nobody fucking cared because it was the bus. Everybody was like, dude, you punched that guy? Damn. And then they turned back to whatever the fuck they were doing because it's the bus.
They just hit him with it anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. So, that's how I got away with punching a teenager, so I said, well, here, let me put this. That's how I got away with punching a preteen. There we go. Because I was a teenager at the time, so.
I was about to say, punching a preteen as a teenager, not as a fully grown adult.
Yeah. So.
Different. Different story.
They're very, very important context. So, but I am immensely grateful that we are living in a time where mecha anime is back in full swing, because we're getting model kit releases of literally anything and anything. Just yesterday, I saw that their Detonator Orgun is getting a new model kit. Dude, so to the average layman, that might mean nothing, but to a mecha anime fan, that should illustrate how big things are going if something as obscure and kind of one note as Detonator Orgun is getting a new model kit. Detonator Orgun is an OVA that was scraped together with the remnants of the ideas of Tekkaman Blade 3. It doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of the genre. It's a decent OVA, but it's nothing to write home about. And yet, Orgun is getting a new model kit. The main guy is getting a new model kit, and you can get him and pose him next to your Tekkaman Blade. Hell, I mean, that's the main reason anybody ever remembers Orgun anyways, is because he got paired with Orgun in Super Robot Wars W, and everybody was like, yeah, actually, these are pretty similar. So, me and Devin build model kits all the time. He's got there's all the fucking Ava kits he has, because he'll always be an Ava geek at heart.
That's my home.
Yeah.
Nerve HQ is my home. It is not a good home, and they do not have health insurance, but it is my home.
Hey man, it's always springtime in the Geofront.
There's an upside and a downside. Upside, always springtime. Downsides, allergies are terrible all year round. That's something that he takes comfort in, because a lot of those characters, meant a lot to him growing up in his adolescence, and it helped him become who he is today. And it's very much the same for me. Gundam is my home. The Universal Century is my home. It's a fucking terrible home. Are you kidding me? There's always war and death happening. It sucks. We have a lot of terrible homes. That's what we're getting.
But goddamn, I love living in space. I love space colonies.
I love space.
Yeah. And for me, my comfort anime is Gundam Double Zeta, which is the story of how a group of teenagers basically bullied an army into not existing.
It's amazing.
Yeah. A group of teenagers bully fascism into death, basically, and that's it's a story about youth and rebellion, and the promise of the next generation, and leaving a better world for those that follow behind us, and all that good stuff. And it deeply resonated with me, and to this day I have a lot of people who associate the main character of that anime with me, to the point that some of them will just see that character and think, oh hey, that's Kaz.
Like, that's him.
Like, some of these people have seen photos of me, but that's not what they think. They don't see my fucking face when they think of me. They just see that character.
They just see his shit-eating grin.
Yeah.
Y'all know the one.
And for a lot of other people, there are mecha anime that mean the same to them. Gal Gaigar, Macross, Full Metal Panic, you know, Gun Sword, whatever it may be. These stories, even though they are about machines, are deeply human, and because of that, they connect with us in a way that I feel like Battle Shonen, which, you know, have kind of the boilerplate espousals of, you know, friendship, camaraderie, you know, determination, all that stuff, doesn't exactly manage to touch upon it, despite the fact that we do enjoy those messages that those shows have as well. I guess, in so many words, what I'm trying to say is that we wouldn't have a lot of things without mecha anime, whether we know it or not. And because of the ongoing conversation between cultures, mecha anime is always going to have something interesting to say. And that's why we should treasure it. And I think that's a good place to end the episode on.
Yeah. In conclusion, buy Breaker 4.
Yeah, get Breaker 4, absolutely.
Get Breaker 4. Make your own world. It's yours to make.
So, that's it for this episode of Core Live Arcade. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your good podcasts. You know, all that good stuff. We are going to try and get back to the swing of releasing these weekly. And, yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.